She grabbed
Stay
his
quiet.
sleeve. Not his assistant.
Follow me.
Not a reporter.
And don't look
Not
rich.
one of the dozens of people who have been trying to get 5 minutes with Richard Hale all morning. A 12-year-old girl in a worn backpack, standing at the edge of a ribbon-cutting ceremony, looking up at a man worth $4 billion like she had been waiting for him her whole life.
Stay quiet.
Because she had.
Follow
Stay
me.
quiet, she said.
And don't look rich.
Follow me. And don't look rich. He laughed. She didn't. I'm serious. And something about the way she said it, calm, no trembling lip, no nervous eyes, made Richard Hale, a man who hadn't been told what to do in 30 years, pause. His assistant stepped forward immediately. Sir, the helicopter. 45 minutes, Hale said, checking his watch. He looked back at the girl. You've got 10. She was already walking. What you're about to hear is the story of one afternoon that changed everything. Not because a billionaire had a change of heart in some movie-perfect moment, but because a 12-year-old girl named Amara had spent 2 years preparing for exactly this conversation. And she wasn't going to waste a single second of it. Stay with me. Because what she had in that folder, nobody saw it coming. Richard Hale didn't come for money. That's the part he liked to mention in interviews. Grew up modest, worked hard, built an empire from scratch. Forbes called him the people's billionaire. His company, Hale Capital Group, had redeveloped over 40 neighborhoods across the country. New towers, new shops, new tax revenue, new everything, except the people who used to live there. But we'll get to that. The ribbon cutting today was for the Meridian, a 62-story luxury residential tower rising out of what used to be the Eastbrook neighborhood. Champagne, a brass band, local politicians in fresh suits, smiling for photos they'd posed before the crowd even dispersed. 2 blocks away, nobody was celebrating. Amara walked fast, head down, backpack tight against her shoulders, sneakers hitting cracked concrete like a metronome. Hale followed, his Italian loafers already looking wrong for the sidewalk. 1 block from the Meridian, the flower boxes disappeared. 2 blocks, the pavement changed. Buckled, patched over so many times it looked like scar tissue. 3 blocks, the corner store came into view. Hand-painted sign, bars on the windows. A man sitting on a milk crate out front, nodding slowly at Amara as she passed. Morning, Mr. Calvin. Morning, baby. Hale looked around. The streets weren't dangerous. They were just tired, like a neighborhood that had been holding its breath for so long it forgot what air felt like. How far are we going? He asked. We're already here, Amara said. She stopped walking. They were standing in front of a building. Red brick, 3 stories. Windows bordered with plywood that started to warp and mold at the edges. Overgrown shrubs pressed against a chain-link fence. A faded sign above the entrance. Letters half gone, but you could still make out the shape of the words. Eastbrook Elementary School. This closed 4 years ago, Amara said. She wasn't dramatic about it. She said it the way you say a fact you've repeated so many times it lives in your bones. 400 kids. Just gone. Redistributed across 3 other schools, 2 of which were already overcrowded. The ones whose parents couldn't drive them, some of them just stopped going. Hale stared at the building. That's a school board issue. Budget cuts. Look at the fence. He looked. There was a small laminated notice, zip-tied to the chain link, faded from rain, but still readable. Property of Hale Capital Group. The silence that followed was the loudest thing on the street. You own this building, Amara said. You've owned it for 3 years. It's been sitting vacant while you waited for the rezoning to clear, so you can turn it into mixed-use luxury units. She unzipped her backpack, pulled out a folder, didn't open it yet, just held it. Not yet, she said quietly. To herself, almost. Keep walking. Hale was quiet now. The amusement from earlier, the indulgent smile of a man humoring a child, was gone. Something else had moved in behind his eyes. Not guilt, not yet. More like the feeling of standing at the edge of something deep and only now realizing it. His watch read 11:43. 32 minutes left. He kept walking. If you're already feeling something watching this story unfold, drop a comment below. Tell me what's going through your mind right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button, because this story is only getting heavier from here. The corner store was the only place within walking distance to buy food. Let that land. Not the only affordable place. The only place. Period. 11 miles to the nearest grocery store. 11 miles with no car, no bus route that ran on weekends, and 2 kids to feed before school on Monday morning. Amara pushed open the door. The bell above it rang thin and tired. Inside, the shelves told a story. Chips, candy, canned goods with dented lids. A small cooler with juice boxes, soda, and a few containers of milk approaching their sell-by date. A single shelf labeled, produce, holding 3 slightly soft apples and a bunch of bananas turning brown at the tips. A woman stood at the counter. Late 30s, maybe, natural hair pulled back. A little girl balanced on her hip, maybe 3 years old, chewing on the collar of her mother's jacket. She was buying canned beans, 2 cans of green beans, a box of crackers, and 2 juice boxes. That was dinner. Amara smiled at her. Hey, Miss Denise. The woman smiled back, warm, real. Then her eyes moved to the man behind Amara. They moved across his suit, his watch, his face, and she recognized him. Her smile didn't vanish. It just went somewhere else, somewhere private. This is Mr. Hale, Amara said. Miss Denise looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Amara. Then she picked up her groceries, adjusted her daughter on her hip, and walked past them toward the door. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Hale turned to Amara. I want to explain. Not yet, Amara said. Keep walking. There's something about being told to keep walking by a 12-year-old that strips every layer of armor off a person. No boardroom. No PR team. No agenda. Just a man, a girl, and the truth of a neighborhood he had touched without ever really seeing. Richard Hale was beginning to see it now. His watch, 11:51. 24 minutes. They heard the kids before they saw them. Laughter first. The sharp, free kind that children produce without thinking about it. The kind that sounds the same whether you're in a mansion or a crumbling street. Then voices. 6 of them, ranging from 8 to 14, clustered under the one working streetlight on the block. It was nearly noon, but the light had been on all night. Amara would later explain that it was the only one on the block that worked. So the kids had adopted it, not just at night. At night was when it mattered most. They were doing homework, notebooks open, pencils moving. One boy had a library book propped against his knee. A girl, maybe 10, was working through what looked like long division on a paper, so worn it had gone soft at the folds. Clearly worked on and erased and worked on again. Amara dropped her backpack and sat down with them like she'd been there all morning. Because in another version of today, she would have been. This is Mr. Hale, she said again. The kids looked up. No awe, no nerves, just curiosity. A boy, 13, wire-thin, with eyes that held more questions than most adults ever learn to ask, held up a foam board science project. Planets, carefully painted, labels in neat handwriting with real facts beneath each one, researched and cited. Do you know how long a day is on Venus? The boy asked Hale. Hale blinked. I don't. 243 Earth days. But a year on Venus is only 225. So the day is longer than a year. A pause. I thought that was interesting. Hale stared at him. That's remarkable. His name is Darius. Amara said, he wants to go to NASA. What school do you go to? Hale asked. Jefferson. Darius said, it's far. The bus is always late. My teacher has 38 kids in class. Hale nodded slowly. Where would you want to go, if you could choose? Darius didn't hesitate. I just want my school to come back. The word sat in the air between them. Simple and enormous. Hale looked at Amara. She was watching him with the patience of someone who had rehearsed this exact moment, who had imagined his face at exactly this sentence. She wasn't gloating. She wasn't performing. She was just present, steady as stone. You said 10 minutes, Hale said quietly. We're not done, she replied. She stood up, picked up her backpack, and then she did something she hadn't done yet. She opened the folder. Still here? Good. because what Amara had in that folder had taken her 2 years to build, and it was about to make one of the most powerful men in the city go completely silent. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're about to get into the part nobody saw coming. The folder was thick. Not thick like someone had padded it to look impressive. Thick like evidence. Page after page of documents. Property records, zoning applications, city permits, city council meeting minutes, satellite images printed in black and white with addresses highlighted in yellow marker. Amara spread several pages out on the hood of a parked car. Your company owns 14 properties in this neighborhood, she said. Not one. 14. This one, she pointed, has been vacant for 6 years. This one, 8. You've been acquiring them quietly through 2 shell companies, letting them sit while the neighborhood deteriorates, then applying for luxury rezoning once the land value drops low enough to redevelop cheap. Hale said nothing. The school we just stood in front of? You bought it 18 months after it closed. The city sold it for $400,000. Your Meridian Tower 2 blocks over is selling units starting at $900,000 each. She looked up at him. You didn't just build over there. You left nothing over here. And you're about to do it again. The street was quiet. No cars passing. No music from open windows. Just the distant sound of the city and the weight of what a 12-year-old girl had just laid out with the precision of a seasoned attorney. Richard Hale, for the first time in longer than he could remember, had absolutely nothing to say. His watch, 12:04. 11 minutes. Why you? He finally said. Why did you bring me here? You could have gone to the press. A city council member. A non-profit. I did, Amara said. 2 years ago, I wrote letters to 4 council members. 1 didn't respond. 2 sent form letters. 1 met with me for 12 minutes and told me to talk to a community organizer. She started collecting her papers. Calm as ever. I went to a reporter at the city paper. He said it wasn't a strong enough story without someone with a name attached to it. I went to 2 nonprofits. 1 didn't operate in this zip code. The other was partially funded by Hale Capital. She zipped her folder back into her backpack. So I came to you. They sat on the front stoop of a row house. Side by side, this man and this girl, in the kind of silence that only arrives when pretense has fully left the building. Then Hale said something nobody expected. I grew up 6 miles from here. Amara looked at him. Different city, same zip code energy. He stared at the cracked pavement. Streetlights that only worked half the time. Corner store where my mom bought cigarettes, and I bought candy with quarters. I told myself if I ever made it out, I'd build things. Create jobs. Make neighborhoods better. You did, Amara said, and she meant it, genuinely, just not this one. He was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you want from me? Amara pulled out a separate piece of paper from her backpack. A notebook page handwritten with 3 numbered items. 1. Reopen the school building as a community learning center. Not a charter. Not a private. A community space. After-school programs. Weekend tutoring. Free. He nodded slowly. 2. Fund a grocery co-op on this block. Not a store you own. A co-op the neighborhood owns. You provide startup capital and walk away. Another nod. 3. Every future development your company plans in any residential neighborhood includes a seat at the planning table for people who actually live there. Not a consultant. Not a liaison. A real seat. Real vote. Hale looked at the page for a long moment. That's not a small ask. No, Amar agreed. It's not. He was quiet. Then the corner of his mouth moved. The first real smile of the day. Slow and earned. 2 years, he said. I want a deadline, Amar replied. Not a promise. She uncapped the pen and held out to him. He took it. And on a 12-year-old girl's notebook page, sitting on a stoop 2 blocks from his newest 62-story tower, Richard Hale signed his name. 6 months later, Amara walked into the quarterly board meeting of Hale Capital Group. She had a seat at the table. She brought 5 kids from the Streetlight corner with her. Darius sat directly across from the CFO, his Venus Fax notebook tucked under his arm. The room went very quiet. Amara set her folder on the table, looked around at 12 executives in expensive suits, and said, we're here for the update. The school building reopened 11 months after that afternoon. The co-op launched its first market day on a Saturday in October. And Amara? She's still in the neighborhood, still in the backpack, still walking fast. She's 14 now. She's already writing her next folder. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, drop a comment below. Tell me what Amara did that most people twice her age wouldn't. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe. Hit the bell, because the next one, it hits just as hard. Stay curious and keep walking.